Hello, and welcome to Pest in Class, Expert Voices in Pest Management. Today, we speak with Anders Fredericksen, the Senior Product Marketing Manager at FieldRoutes, as he shares the results from the Pest Control Industry Report for 2024. Get a sneak peek at survey results from over 1,000 American pest control businesses. We'll uncover the latest industry trends, concerns, and top priorities in the industry. Let's reflect on 2024 to help you prepare for a successful 2025. I'm your host, Amanda Salvatore. Let's get into it. Anders Fredericksen, you are the Senior Product Marketing Manager here at FieldRoutes, and today we are going to be discussing the Pest Control Industry Report for 2024. You have some really interesting data, and I can't wait to dive into it with you. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
Yeah, of course. It's a pleasure to finally be here.
Absolutely. I think we have some really cool stuff to talk about today, so I'm excited to get into it. I know that you reside in Seattle, Washington, which is obviously known for its sunny weather, but also it is known for local breweries. And so I want to incorporate that a little bit into our icebreaker. So if you could create your own beer, what kind would it be and what would you name it?
It's a good question. It's funny, that actually came up recently. We're pretty big fans of the West Coast IPAs. Definitely one of those. So like lots of citrus and piney flavor and very hoppy. I was fishing with my brother recently, and he likes to call bald eagles the spruce gooses. Spruce goose. So I think I would name it that, the Spruce Goose IPA.
I think that needs to happen.
Yeah.
That's really fun. That's so much fun. I love something that's a little silly, but also unique and interesting. So
Yeah, hopefully tastes good.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I think so. So let's get into it. We're going to be talking about this industry report for 2024. For those who might not be familiar, can you explain what this is?
Yeah, absolutely. So this year we partnered with Thrive Analytics to survey over 1,000 pest control companies in the US. So I think it was like 1,038 exactly. This was regardless of what software they use, varied in, location and size. So we got a really cool sample of pest companies, some, under 500K annual revenue, some over 200 million, and all in between. And also varied a lot in terms of like the individual pest services they offered. So yeah, really pest companies of all types. And yeah, we wanted to get kind of a finger on the pulse of what's going on, get inside their heads a little bit and learn all we can, especially with kind of a mind of like going into the next year, 2025, like what's top of mind, what are they thinking about, and just get as much kind of useful insights as we can. So we got a lot of different roles who responded, a lot of general managers and owners, operations managers, which makes up a good majority, but others as well, sales, marketing, all kinds of things. So I want to get a clear picture of the pest control market. We asked them a bunch of questions in many different respects. We want to, top mind concerns, risks. Where do they see the industry in general? Where is it going? A lot on technology. Overall, aim here was just kind of to use all this information to help pest professionals, better plan and strategize the year ahead. On our side, also use it to continue developing some innovative solutions and better serve our customer base. So
Incredible. I would love to hear about some of these general highlights. You were talking about this top of mind. What are some of the highlights that you can take away from this survey?
There were some really interesting themes that we saw kind of pop up when we looked at the data. Like the highest level pest companies seem pretty optimistic. We asked them like how they think about the industry and growth and stuff. And most are planning to either grow or remain the same. Most planning to add headcount rather with salary increases. So lots to see there. That's really good. We saw that pest companies are pretty, they're pretty open to technology. They are selective a bit. When they see opportunity to capture value from it, like they'll embrace technology in many different respects. We saw that a lot, but they are, picky. And so there's certain things that they kind of remain hesitant towards, especially like hardware, wearables like robotics and, similar emerging things, drones, that kind of stuff. Like there's not a ton of interest there, neither in AI yet, which I'll get into later, but that said, there's a lot of software in use, which is really interesting to see in different places. Also, we saw a really strong focus on marketing in general and the overall customer experience, which It shouldn't be a shock, but marketing automation, marketing tools came up a ton in terms of interest and future plans. Obviously, big growth goals across the board. And a lot of people seem really focused on growing revenue, mainly through their existing customer base. Again, that speaks to the customer experience, that general theme. And yeah, overall, pest businesses are really eager to kind of find new ways to improve the services they provide and strengthen the overall relationships with the customers. So it was really interesting to see kind of those things. There were, a few surprises, but overall, like it all makes sense. People expect growth. They want to, keep their customers and offer an amazing experience.
So you just mentioned growth. I'd love to dive into that a little bit. Everyone is looking to grow their business and the growth of their business. So how are business owners addressing and chasing growth?
One thing that came up a lot too is optimizing cash flow and keeping healthy margins. That's a pretty big concern there, along with their growth goals. When we looked at the data, we saw a lot of interest in, how can they add new efficiencies? How can they save time? How can they find the right balance of adding headcount, but also adding new software efficiencies, capabilities? And that right balance is kind of like, growing in a healthy way or scalable lean growth. How can you do more with less? Obviously, a lot of companies, they can face challenges even when they are growing. It's a good thing, obviously, to get growth, but if you're not prepared for it or if things aren't set up, optimally, you can get a lot of growing pains and a lot of frustrations and troubles and friction there. So when we look at kind of growth as a theme, it was really, around like, how can we use things like marketing automation to drive scale? How can we, improve, like I mentioned, the customer experience to retain customers more easily? How can we just better enable our employees to do what they need to do and save time in the day, move focus to important areas away from, repetitive, redundant tasks that can be automated. So a lot of things like that.
We're talking about marketing quite a bit. That's something that keeps coming up, as well as retention. When it comes to marketing, what are some of the goals people have that you found?
In terms of like planned investment, marketing tools, marketing automation got second place with 43% of businesses planning a significant investment in that area. Obviously, it's about, not just finding new customers, but they want to be able to cross-sell, to upsell easily. And if you're using a marketing automation tool, the scale there, the ROI can be incredible because you're just able to basically automate messages, set things up, campaigns, easily slice and dice segments and stuff, and just go after who you need to go after to chase new growth and stuff in a very scalable way. So it seems like a no-brainer, but yeah, definitely something that people are thinking about a lot. They want to increase investment in, which makes sense. We saw a little bit in terms of sales and door knocking and stuff too. But yeah, overall marketing was a very popular choice and seems to be one of the main ways they expect to chase growth.
Yeah, I feel like it's a very traditional way of approaching your business and being able to showcase what you're capable of and what you're able to provide.
It's just interesting to see kind of how businesses are using technology side of the equation to scale more easily. And obviously, I mentioned automation already. You think about things like being able to see, real-time data in your business to see what's working, what isn't. Like that's huge. Hard to do if you're chasing it too through, reporting in different point solutions or different software products. So we did see that, a good healthy portion of the respondents are looking to use an end-to-end management platform or they want to consolidate software. We saw that a bit just because having that single source of business is huge. We talked a little bit about collections and things like that. If you can eliminate all these like phone calls for reminders, manual ones with just automated notifications or communications, like it's another kind of part of the business where you're just saving a lot of cost and time and energy, which helps the margins. There's a lot of different ways it kind of impacts.
Yeah. Efficiency is key. I say that about 100 times an episode, but it really boils down to efficiency. I'd love to talk about technology. What are some other trends that you were able to see people are interested in through this report?
It was interesting because we found that 80% of respondents are right now using 7 or more software tools in their stack, which we thought was interesting. Obviously, this is the first survey of its kind, so we don't have prior years to compare to, but that, for whatever reason, seemed higher than we expected. It kind of alluded to earlier, there's a lot of different places to log into or retrieve information from, keep track of regularly across the organization. That was one really interesting thing. Some companies may be perfectly happy with a tech stack like that. There's natural things like overlap or, issues with not, different systems not working well together. You can have complex workflows from that. Obviously, a lot of organizations seem to be looking to simplify if they, want to grow the right way, so to speak. And then, in terms of other trends, we also saw that payroll processing was another popular choice. Nothing very, flashy there, but highly important, obviously. I mentioned marketing automation. We asked respondents what they think will be the most useful technology for the next 1 to 3 years. Marketing automation was a top pick, like I mentioned earlier, but followed closely was property intelligence, AI, and data analytics. So, it seems like some companies are really interested in getting as advanced as they can, really trying to surface any kind of insights from data wherever they can, apply it in interesting places. So it'd be really interesting to see how that develops over the next years.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Talking about AI just a little bit, I think that last year, maybe people were being introduced to this concept and what it can do for your business. And it was a scary word before, maybe in the past 2 to 3 years. And now I think that everyone is seeing how they can utilize it and want to learn more about it.
Yeah, people are definitely paying attention to AI. In terms of practical application, we asked about that. 82% right now say they aren't using AI. We still aren't seeing a ton of, day-to-day application there in this industry. But we did ask, what do you see as the biggest opportunity for impact with AI in the future? Top picks for that, 1, 2, and 3 were, again, marketing number 1. So seeing that a lot there. 2, field operations, and sales took a third spot. So it's definitely a lot of interest in marketing and sales. And, how can we use AI to get growth, better growth, right? Also, they're interested to see how they can use it in the field, better service customers, things like that.
Since we're talking about technology, I want to pivot just a little bit to software adoption. What were the top reasons companies are shifting to software? And what are the top concerns or barriers for them?
From looking at the data and all this, from the survey, we kind of thought that it was apparent that the top reasons for software shift were really tied to kind of growth goals and healthy cash flow and margins. I mean, there's this obvious desire for efficiency and scale that we talked about and better customer experience. That's obviously easier if you have the right system in place. It's easier if you have an end-to-end platform in space. It's what we believe. Also, they've got further goals listed. 41% listed process and workflow optimization. So again, something that specialized software is, designed to support and drive. 60% of respondents said they desire all-in-one management platform, something that can really cover the entire service lifecycle. Additionally, some other data points that kind of relate to that. We saw 28% saying that consolidating technology systems was a goal for them in the coming year. And 22% said they just want to further modernize customer experience. So I think all that relates. Obviously, like I mentioned already, the key to that is really finding the right, end-to-end true all-in-one platform. It's a lot harder to do that when you're solving with different point solutions. You really want like your CRM, your operations management, your scheduling, routing, reporting, all in just one place. Makes your life so much easier. You have a lot of, opportunity to reap a lot of benefit there. So in terms of like concerns and barriers, what's making people hesitant to switch? So we asked a question about that, and the top 2 responses were actually number 1 was just not having enough time to evaluate, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's a considerable time commitment to do a proper, shop of different vendors and solutions and everything that can have its own headaches and be difficult. Number 2 was just the cost itself. No surprise there. The 3rd, 4th, and 5th ranked choices, I think, were all kind of dealing with the time and energy loss, the frustrations, and just general overall disruption that can come from buying new software. The team together and loop of different stakeholders. Implementation obviously is, often not fun, a kind of necessary thing with a lot of, time and frustration there and troubleshooting sometimes. It's things that people are a little bit hesitant or rather scared of for good reason. It's easy to kind of see why that can put people off. If you do find the right solution and you're able to consolidate things, you can really simplify your business and kind of accelerate things and scale in the right way. For a lot of people, it can really be worth it. And this is something where I think if you do find the right partner, right solution there, implementation can definitely be made easier. It can be kind of customized to your unique needs and everything. So again, for a lot of businesses, they do find it's worth it when they're ready for the right solution to take them to the next level.
Yeah, I hear that. Implementation takes a long time, and time can feel really scary when you're running a business and you feel like you're short on time. But if you find the right company, you'll be able to really steer that ship and make sure that all of your ducks are in a row.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's talk about top goals and priorities. What did they focus on for 2024? So we have a better idea of what to look forward to in 2025.
So to kind of look at like data points, I mentioned revenue a ton. We had 59% listed increased revenue as top goal, keeping current customers at 58%. This also is, by the way, like multiple choice selection. So many chose that, and then acquiring new customers was 48%. So right at the top, those three goals, it's increased revenue. Number two, do it through keeping current customers. Number three, acquiring new ones. So again, no surprises there, but definitely speaks to the ambition and kind of, I would say, optimism as well. Recruit and retain employees came next at 42%. And we actually saw finding and keeping the right talent in your team come up in several ways in the survey. Should be obvious, but yeah, it's really interesting, in order to really like deliver amazing service and to maintain growth and everything, you got to have a top team. It's, so important, not easy to manage, and, it can be really hard to find good talent out there. So top of mind for respondents. Improved cash flow and increased margins were also top picks at 40%, 33%. I mentioned those earlier, vital to the bottom line growth, like how can we grow in a healthy way? And then, around a fifth of pest companies, I think 28% said they just want to consolidate technology systems, and 22% modernize the customer experience. So
now, all of these feel very much in line with what business owners are looking forward to. And it goes really back to this idea of marketing as well that you had mentioned a couple of times, that is, it's heavily influencing these goals and these priorities. Also, having a healthy workforce seems to be a theme throughout this entire report, making sure that your employees are also being taken care of and that they are also a priority, so that if they feel valued, then they will transfer that value to the customer as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Happier team translates, down to a better customer experience for sure. One of the things we did ask too was, are you planning salary increases for your team? And so we do have a PDF summary of this survey, which shows a breakdown of planned salary increases by percentage for back office folks, for techs, and for sales. Really interesting data there.
Yeah, you want to see what your neighbors, if you will, are doing to help out their team, so you can kind of follow suit and see what the trends are so that you're competitive as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the beauties of this survey, I think, is you can kind of see what's everyone else thinking, what are they doing, where are they betting their dollars and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think this report is so, so valuable. I want to talk about risks a little bit, which can be scary, but they're a necessary part of business, right? So what are some of the risks owners are concerned about? What are they thinking? What's on top of mind?
Top three selected, 53%, or number one choice was the availability and cost of materials and products. To me, that speaks to that bottom line focus. There's some things we just can't control, and that's like the price of a product, or, whatever we need, and they need to kind of pay attention to and deal with. Number two was customer retention, whether it's customer experience, protecting that, or protecting your customers from competitors, like just keeping them around is hugely important. And the number three choice was really interesting. It was validating the quality of work. So again, customer experience there is tied into that, but also like, how can we manage our team better, more easily? Like, how can we make sure that things are getting done the way they need to get done? Yeah, so that was a really interesting choice there. And overall, I mentioned cash flow, is vital and everything, very obvious. Anything that threatens cash flow, a huge risk to be aware of. So late payments can be a killer there. And we kind of asked about billing and collections. And one question in particular was like, how long is it taking you to collect payments on services you've already completed? 59% said that on average, they are collecting payment for those completed services on time, which is great. That was good to see. But 20% said it's, about a week later than the terms are set. Further, 21% said that it's 2 to 4 weeks. So that's 41% still saying that it's at least a week late on average for the payments that they're getting. I would say that, again, this is another area where businesses can save a lot of time and effort by just embracing the automation that's out there from a specialized end-to-end platform, which can, remind customers of payments, send out notifications, and even just surface things and reports really easily. So that way you can kind of get on top of things right away and prevent lots of, future headaches and time chasing things down, uneasy, awkward conversations with your customers, things like that. Obviously, reminders and communications won't prevent all late payments, but they can go pretty far in getting ahead of them. And, it's an easy way to kind of stay on top of those who are just forgetful. So it can save a lot of trouble and help your cash flow there. And then lastly, we asked about kind of the macro look, and only about a fifth of the respondents listed an economic recession as one of the biggest risks they see. So I think that on the whole is pretty good, actually. People aren't really kind of bracing for that as much.
I think that a lot of companies, listening to these concerns, I think a lot of companies dealing with having to reach out for payment seems to be a really delicate operation. And any opportunity you can take to make sure that that happens with the least amount of resistance is always good, right?
Yeah, whenever I talk about the subject, like it always, to me, it's a straight win situation where if you can solve some of these headaches with automation, like with automated comms, it's not just like you're eliminating a lot of that trouble, time, energy, effort, what have you, but you're also like freeing up a lot of time for your team to concentrate on other areas, like the fun areas, right? Like driving growth or finding opportunity. It's kind of exciting if you can free up all that time. What else you could, put that time back into, or maybe just go home on time. That's also fine as well.
Yeah, we were talking before about the time it takes for implementation and how people are a little resistant to that time. But once implemented, there are opportunities to get that time back throughout your business, throughout the life of your business, really, it sounds like.
I think one of the best examples there too is the ease you get from having a centralized single source of truth for reporting. That's huge. It's really hard to get a gauge on performance if you just don't know the score. So having that scoreboard like there is great. Don't go chasing down numbers of different systems and trying to reconcile them each month, things like that.
I'd love to ask you, what was the biggest surprise result that you found out?
The high number of software applications in use, it seems like that was a surprise. I mentioned 80% are using 7 or more tools in their stack, regular operations, that is. So to break that down further, 38% of respondents said they use 7 to 9 and 42% say they use 10 or more. So you have almost half using more than 10. So it's really a lot. Like I mentioned, all this is, the first survey of this kind. It'll be really cool to see in future years how that develops and stuff, because we just don't have the prior years to compare to yet. But still, we thought that was surprising. I think overall, a good surprise was the overall like positive market outlook. Over 87% anticipated their revenue will increase this year, which is great. And 80% think that the market will be the same or better the next year. Very promising stuff there. That's great to see. And then to go along with that, just 41% think that their profits will actually increase, though, which is really interesting. Again, speaks to that idea of like, how do you achieve healthy and scalable lean growth? Like, how do you find the right balance? How can you grow and still be able to offer an amazing customer experience and get the right balance of headcount, find the right talent, but also make the right choices in implementing software, making sure your processes are set up to really fuel that the right way. Now it's a great time to look at that. It's pretty much in the off season for everyone now. So it's a good chance to kind of take a step back and look at data reports like this and use that to drive planning. And then lastly, in terms of surprises, I still think that number one identified risk being the availability and cost of materials and products was really interesting. Obviously, that was a huge topic during the pandemic in 2020 and everything, and it hasn't really subsided, but still to see that as the number one concern. Again, it's just something that people don't really have control over, but it has a very real impact on their bottom line and something they have to account for. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out as well.
I think that's a really valid concern. The pandemic was a shock to all of us, and I think people are still hesitant in that way, knowing that this is a possibility that can happen to them. Anders, before we go, I do have to ask, where can our listeners find this report?
We have a copy of kind of a summary document that's available online on our website, so we can direct you towards there. We recently did a webinar as well. I had our senior content writer, Eddie Wooten, join me, and I delivered a lot of the results of the survey, but he got to kind of add in this really cool kind of perspective in the customer base, like all the customers he's talked to. So a lot of like quotes and insights from them, what they're talking about. So it was great to kind of get this like We have the quantitative side coming from the survey, but also the qualitative, like what are, some really outstanding people in the industry saying and what do they feel, and add a kind of a personal touch to it, which is great.
We'll add the actual report as well as that webinar into our show notes. So everyone who's listening has an opportunity to check it out because they're both really great opportunities to learn. Anders, thank you so much again for coming on to Pest in Class. Finally, is there anything that you would like to learn for next year's report or a question you would like to include?
Yeah, good question. I think I'd be curious to ask pest companies where they feel like the biggest gap is in their business. What do they feel like is missing from a technology perspective, and go deeper into that. Also, maybe, which aspect of the service life cycle do they think needs the most focus or improvement, or at least what's the most focus for them, rather from sales, marketing, whether it's scheduling, routing, the actual servicing and equipment they use, follow-ups, retaining business, cross-sell, what have you. It's just, there's so much there to dig into. I'd love to get a little more into marketing automation and see, for the companies that have deployed it, how are they using it? What ways are they using it? What value are they capturing from it? Things like that. I want to keep asking about some hot topics like AI and its applications and see how that changes and develops in the industry. We're always interested to dig in deeper to, the gaps and frustrations they might have. Like, obviously, that's really interesting to us as a company. So yeah, all of that.
I'm really looking forward to comparing 2024 to 2025. This has been really interesting information, really valuable information. Anders Fredericksen, thank you so much for coming on to Pest in Class. What a great episode. Thank you again.
Thanks. It's a fun time. Appreciate it.